Hey guys, what I have to show you guys today, or have you guys listen to, is Nancy Grace's take on the Jholie Moussa case. She sits and discusses the case with detectives and analysts, and they kind of dissect what they feel went on and the facts, so to speak, to the best of their knowledge. Some of the things that they're discussing and the points they kind of point out to us makes sense. You guys let me know what you think about it. Chop it up in the comment section. Peace and love.
Channel 132. At this point, detectives believe that Jholie left on her own accord, and there is nothing to indicate that she's in any immediate danger. A beautiful young girl, just 16 years old, Jholie, goes missing. What happened? Her body has been found in an Alexandria park, a public park in Virginia, Fairfax County. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us. What happened to this beautiful teen girl, Jholie Moussa? Joining me right now is a very special guest. It is Mark Class, victims advocate, founder of Class Kids, a crime victim himself. Mark, thank you so much for being with us. Mark, we know that Jholie's body has been found in an open park, a public park. It's Woodlawn Neighborhood Park on Manor Drive, found just beyond a set of tennis courts. And why I keep saying an open park, this is a public park where anyone could have seen what happened. Her body covered in leaves and debris, according to police. Mark Class, you studied the case very carefully. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, Nancy, I'm a huge supporter of law enforcement, but I think that they absolutely and totally dropped the ball on this case. Jholie went missing on the 12th. She was reported missing to the police early on the 13th, and they refused to take a report. They said instead that she was a runaway because there was no proof of anything else. On the 15th, the mother went on...
Okay, wait, let me just stop you right there, Mark Class, because it's breaking my heart. Yeah. We don't know if her life could have been saved. She's reported less than 24 hours later. And instead of saying, unless we know different, she's a runaway, why not say, unless we know different, she's kidnapped?
Because they were in way over their head. I mean, they were using the default answer from 1993. That's what they told parents. And if children disappeared, police would say, well, she's probably a runaway, and they would absolve themselves of any further responsibility. But that doesn't cut it anymore. That doesn't work anymore because we know much more about the disappearance of children, and we know that runaway children are at-risk children that tend to populate the human trafficking ranks. So there's nothing correct about the response from law enforcement. It got so bad, Nancy, that on the 15th, the mother gave an interview to the local Fox television station where she was just bawling. The twin sister couldn't stop crying. They led the news with it, yet the police were still saying that she wasn't in danger. The family knew it, the media knew it, the public knew it, and the cops were completely oblivious to the fact that this child was in imminent danger, if not already dead.
You're right, Mark Class, my old friend, my colleague. That is exactly what the mom told local Fox 5. Take a listen to what Mark Class has just described.
Her last call was to call to me. Jholie, I don't know what's happening, and I don't care. I just want you to come home. If you've done something and you don't feel comfortable talking to me about it, that's okay. You're not in trouble. If someone's with you, we don't care about you either. Just take her to a Walmart. Take her anywhere and just drop her off there. If you know any information about where my child is, please, 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 please. Please, just let us know. And Jholie, you're fine. I know you are, and I love you, and I will see you soon.
Jolie's mother, Sarita, told Fox 5 she does not believe her daughter would have ever run away. She has no history of ever running away before. As a matter of fact, the mom says the last time she saw Jholie, her daughter, Jholie said she'd be right back and didn't even take her phone charger. Didn't take any extra clothes with her, nothing. No clothes, her phone charger, her iPad, nothing taken missing from the home. Take a listen to Jolie's mother.
It hurt me how it was handled. It hurt. It just hurt because I know my child. And I know that it was out of character for her not to come home.
If this girl were running away, you know she would have taken some of her favorite things. No, nothing. And you know the most important thing in a teen girl's life is her cell phone. She didn't even take her charger. Mark Class, you are dead on as usual. And you know, Mark, I hate to chip away at the cops. Okay? I do. Because I think overall they're good intentioned. But in these cases, and we've covered so many together, Mark, where the child is deemed a runaway, and they always end up dead. Every time we cover it, the child is dead, and the police sat on their thumbs, calling it a runaway.
In this case, Nancy, it wasn't until a couple of days later, I believe on the 16th, that law enforcement finally had a meeting with the FBI and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and it was after that meeting that they said, oh, well, maybe there is something more going on here. You shouldn't have to be schooled by a nonprofit on how to treat a missing child case if you are a professional law enforcement agency. So this is something that it's unconscionable, and it's something that needs to be corrected. In fact, the first missing child protocol was written in the aftermath of Polly's case almost 25 years ago. By this time, every law enforcement agency should either know how to respond to one of these cases or know that if they don't know how to respond, they need to bring the FBI in immediately because they always take them seriously.
We are talking about a gorgeous young Fairfax, Virginia teen. Absolutely beautiful. The most beautiful smile I think I've ever seen. She leaves the home saying she'll be back in an hour or so. She doesn't even take her cell phone charger. She's never seen my mom again. It's breaking my heart to hear it. Now, you just heard my friend Mark Class, founder of Class Kids, discuss Polly's case. Mark, for those listeners that don't know what you're talking about, please explain.
Polly was my 12-year-old daughter, and she was hosting a slumber party with two girlfriends on the evening of October 1st, 1993, in the home that she shared with her mother in Petaluma, California. And at about 10:30 in the evening, a bearded, knife-wielding stranger entered Polly's bedroom, bound, gagged, and blindfolded the girls, and then he stole Polly into the night. Her last words were, "Please don't hurt my mother and sister." And we then spent the next 65 days, when I say we, I mean my family, the city of Petaluma, Sonoma County, law enforcement, the FBI, only to find that a recidivist violent offender had kidnapped, raped, and murdered Polly within a 2-hour period the very night that he had kidnapped her. That individual now is residing on California's death row.
You know, Mark, I want to slow you down just one moment because you just did something I always do. When people ask me, and I'm not prepared for it, about my fiance's murder, for years it would get me so distraught. Then I figured out how to tell the story quickly and concisely and move on. And the way you just delivered Polly's story, I don't know, just to hear you say that so quickly and concisely so you could then move on from it, it just broke my heart because I just think the world of you, and I just hate that you went through anything painful. At the end of what you said, that in 2 hours from the time Polly was taken from her mom's home, at a sleepover for Pete's sake, within 2 hours, it was over. In this case, we're analyzing, Mark. Jholie left on the 12th. The parents reported her missing in less than 24 hours. Probably hoping the whole time, well, she got with her girlfriends and they've gone to the mall. I just can't find her. Or, you know what? I bet they went to the mall. I bet they went to a late movie. That's what they're doing. And she has not called home. She's in so much trouble. Then, you know what? I bet she spent the night at so-and-so's, and they start calling the friends. And by about 4 o'clock in the morning, they're like, where is she? And then they call police. I guarantee you that's how that night went down. But you said in 2 hours, it was over when Polly was taken. Out of her home. I keep my own, because of Polly. Mark, I do not even have the children in the house without the alarm on at any time. I don't care, morning, noon, or night. Because of what I have learned from you, Mark class. 2 hours, it was over for Polly. Look, by the time the police sit down and talk with the family, it's the 16th. Mark, how many hours have passed?
Oh, it's just unbelievable. And it's not just Polly. I mean, 76% of children that are going to be murdered as a result of an abduction are dead within the first 3 hours. That's why there is no time to lose, and why there is no acceptance of incompetence in these kinds of cases. It just shouldn't be that way anymore. And this is a case where everything fell apart.
You know what? You are just so much stronger than I am. You are, because you are right to business in trying to solve the Jholie Moussa case, as you should be. And I'm hung up in the pain and the suffering the family is going through. We are analyzing what happened. We know the little girl is dead. Her body has been found near tennis courts in a public park. But there is no suspect. No one has been arrested in this case. Police defending their actions.
When Jholie was reported missing on Saturday, she had already been gone for a day. She had left her home and seen on camera under circumstances that did not seem to be unusual. The family contacted us the following day when they realized and felt that Jholie's actions were no longer the norm for her. Our officers responded, took an initial report, and immediately entered her into the national database. They conducted a number of interviews and a number of searches of friends' homes and contacted friends and some local hangouts without success. But at that point still, nothing appeared to be of a nature where we felt she was truly in danger. There was no indication of an abduction or anything like that at that time. The next day, patrol officers continued that, and we continued to follow up any leads and all the information provided by the family. On Monday, that continued through the holiday. On Tuesday, we met with people from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and the FBI. As we met with them and we discussed our various options, it was at that time, with Jholie's literally falling off the electronic radar, no communication, no social media, no postings like that, and talking with the family, this clearly was now something that was beyond normal. At that point, we upgraded her status as an endangered missing juvenile, and our efforts continued. Our efforts continued every day through interviews, searches, web searches, search warrants, legal process through social media and such, and that continued up until the day that she was found, and continues beyond. I will tell you that On that Tuesday, when we spoke with the FBI and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the number of leads that we had, both viable and leads that did not pan out, took us to places as far as Philadelphia, up and down the East Coast. We were in contact with the Old Dominion University Police, the Norfolk Police, the FBI in the Norfolk Field Office, the FBI in the Philadelphia Field Office. This case took a lot of turns with a lot of incoming information and a lot of leads to follow up, and continues to have just an enormous amount of leads. And we, the police department, homicide detectives, are continuing to follow up just an enormous amount of information that has come in from the public and leads that we've developed.
But Mark Class, the hours they lost as they insisted she was a runaway could have saved her life, Mark.
It very well could have. There's no question about that, and that's why you have to know what you're doing, and if you don't, you get a hold of somebody that does know what they're doing. And in this case, that would have been the FBI. They're in Alexandria, Virginia. That's where the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is headquartered. I mean, my goodness, that should be ground central for missing kids in America, and here's a situation where they just failed miserably. But I guess, Nancy, if there's any kind of a silver lining, it's the fact that several days later, the mother again went on the Fox 5, and she talked about the fact that she now had to be the voice for her child, that she had an unintended quest in her life now, which was to be the voice for Jholie and to make sure that what happened to her doesn't happen to other children, so that she hadn't died in vain.
As a matter of fact, take a listen to Jholie's mother now.
If Jholie, this tragedy can bring something good, then I'm going to make sure that my child did not die in vain.
In addition to being Janae's mother and Jolie's mother, I am now going to strive to be a voice for so many families that a child will walk out the door and never come home, and they're just labeled as a runaway and they're dismissed. And that's not okay.
The worst outcome that could possibly happen has happened. So at this point, I'm in it for the long haul. This is the first time you're going to see me on TV, or the last time. I'm in it for the long haul because I don't want anyone else to go through what my child went through.
Let me switch gears very quickly. I'm thinking back to my days as a prosecutor when I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning, race to court, start a trial at 8 o'clock, and keep going strong till midnight looking for witnesses for the next day. Things change. Working, taking care of the twins, cooking dinner, the works. Now I found out about something awesome, and it's called Super Beets. SUPERBEETS, and I love them. I didn't know about them. I had been hearing about, quote, superfoods. Every time I go online, something pops out about, now it's quinoa. Now it's sunchokes. What are they? Every time I go online, I find out about a new superfood, nutritionally dense foods that are really good for you and your body. Well, one of the most powerful superfoods, beets. We all know as we age, our bodies change. You have less energy, you get fatigued. Often it's because of a decrease in circulation. But if you give your body what it needs, it increases your natural, healthy circulation. And that is why I drink Super Beets, and I've even given it to some of my female relatives, and they love it. My husband is next. Every time I give him a chore with the children, he's tired. Super Beets promotes your body's own natural ability to produce healthy circulation. That gives you increased energy and stamina all day long. Circulation allows your blood to take oxygen to all the parts of your body. Only Super Beets made from beets grown to very exacting standards. They're then concentrated into superfood crystals. You just add water. If you want to give your body what it needs, call 800-516-0683 or go to nancysbeats.com. NANCYS Beats, BEETS.com. With your first order, you even get a 30-day supply of Super Beats for free. And they give you indicator strips to see how Super Beats working for you, plus free shipping. That's 800-516-0683. Or go to nancysbeats.com today. It has worked for me.
I knew she was like a predator's dream, basically. You know what I mean? Because she was just so little and dainty and kind and sweet and timid. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I was so afraid. I thought this couldn't possibly happen to me because I'm so cautious and I'm always talking to them and, you know, I'm so fearful. And it happened.
The search was on at that point for Jholie Moussa, a desperate search all across Alexandria, Virginia, and Fairfax County. The police asking for the public's help to find the missing teen. 16-year-old Jholie, last seen the 12th. But it wasn't until the 16th that police get serious and finally realize she's missing. Joining me right now, Lee Egan, crimeonline.com reporter. Lee, what can you tell us? How was the body found?
So the body was found in the park near tennis courts, buried under brushes and leaves. It was buried really well to where, you know, just walking by you wouldn't be able to see her. But it was still in open view. It was where if somebody happened to rake that area, they would find her.
Officers discover Jholie's body in Woodlawn Park, less than a mile from her home. That is where the body was discovered. Her dead body, found behind a pair of tennis courts covered in leaves and debris. Not fully buried, but covered in leaves and debris. To Ashley Wilcott, lawyer and child advocate, that tells me a lot. The mode of disposal of the body. First of all, she didn't make it far from her home. And second of all, it was a disposal of convenience. It reminds me of the Robert Blake case, where his wife, who was killed right behind the Italian restaurant where they were going to dinner that evening, her body was left right there, and the murder weapon was just thrown in a dumpster because the killer never really seemed to leave the scene. And here it says to me her body was not transported very far at all and was just, you know, barely covered up with leaves and debris. No grave dug, no hole dug. She wasn't dumped down a ravine or put in garbage bags and left at a dumpster. Why? What does that say to you, Ashley?
The same thing, that this was a crime of convenience, meaning that someone chose her as the victim, did what they wanted, killed her, threw her out quick, not deliberately planned for a particular victim to say, I'm going to do these things and then dispose of the body here. Crime of convenience. Somebody got to her, murdered her, probably within the 3-hour window that you've already heard is a statistical case with a lot of these abductions, and then just threw her out.
Back to Mark Class, founder of Class Kids. Mark, what does this scenario say to you? Her body found less than a half a mile from her home, not really hidden very well, in a public park.
Well, it tells me a couple of things. First of all, it tells me that somebody lured a child out of her home and then murdered her and then just tossed her into the park and walked away as if nothing had happened. She couldn't have cared less about this individual. Obviously wanted her dead. I think it was planned. I think that this is exactly what this individual had in mind when he lured her out of her home in the afternoon so that he could murder her.
We are also looking at information on her cell phone, Mark Class. Before she left the house, she apparently received a phone call from a cell phone that pinged at that park, Mark Class.
Just awful. You know, this is where I become emotional about these things, because if a child can't be safe in their home, where in the world can they be safe? You know, these guys use binary code to get into our children's bedrooms. They don't even have to lurk in the bushes anymore. All they have to do is find a way to lure the kids to them, and then they take care of their evil intention. It just is the worst possible thing. And there's a special place in hell for people that do things like this. You know that as well as I do.
Boy, do I. Now, get this scenario, Mark. She was sitting at home with her twin sister doing her twin sister's hair. And, I mean, I just think about how many millions of times I've just sat there and done Lucy's hair over and over again. She gets a text that says, and let me throw this to you, Vincent Hill, private investigator joining us. She gets a text. She receives a text that says, okay, gotta go, and leaves. The high school sophomore never seen alive again. I mean, in my mind, it's got to be connected, Vincent.
Yeah, absolutely, Nancy. I mean, you get the phone call from a phone at the park where she was found. You get the text message. More importantly, later that night, her sister receives a text that says, I'm going to a party 3 hours away, but yet Felice never said, well, did she come back to get a change of clothes, to get things like you mentioned, her charger? So you had all of these red flags there on the day she went missing. Unfortunately, they weren't followed up on. And now we have the tragic ending to this case.
You know, it's interesting that you brought that up, Vincent. I want to follow up on that. Ashley, we're both getting into iPhone territory with our children. Your daughter, age 10, just like Lucy. Here's the thing. That cell phone she had with her when she left. I find it very difficult to believe that a teen girl would wear the same clothes all day long, just like Vincent Hill is accurately pointing out. That's why he's the private eye. She never came home for a change of clothes or to freshen up or anything. She had not mentioned this party to anybody. I think somebody else sent that text that she was going to a party. There's no evidence she ever ended up at a party.
I completely agree with you, especially given the fact her body was located so close to the home. And how easy is it for the person who abducted, killed, murdered her to then say, ooh, I'm going to cover my tracks. I'm going to throw them off. I'm just going to shoot this little text to say, oh, yeah, I'm headed to a party. So they think, she's going to a party and she's a runaway. I completely do not believe that she sent that text either.
Mark Class, another clue is that evening, her mom, Jholie's mom, missed a cell call from her daughter. I think whoever killed her, she was already dead. That they went through most recent texts and texted the sister, hey, I'm going to leave for a party 3 hours from here in Norfolk. That's not true. And then later just sent a call to the mom that was missed. Didn't leave a message, just dial the number and let it ring and hung up. What about that, Mark Class?
I totally agree. I think that's exactly what happened. The individual that did this had a plan and laid out the plan, gave themselves some extra time by sending that text and by making that unresolved phone call, and walked away from this poor tiny little girl that he had buried under leaves in a park.
I'm just thinking it through. It's so cold and calculated, Mark Class. The cover-up, sending these text messages and making this call from the dead girl's own cell phone to mislead her family. That's cold, Mark.
It's a cold soul. It's an individual that is filled with hatred, and an individual that needs to be taken off of the streets and kept off of the streets. In fact, I would say that this is the kind of a crime that rises to the death penalty.
Oh, absolutely, because Ashley Wolcott, lawyer and child advocate, we know very well that a suspect's behavior, not only before and during, but after the act, can be brought into evidence, such as covering up, misleading the family so they would not find her body. All that evidence can come in at trial, and Mark Class pegged it. It's a cold soul that would mislead the family and send fake texts to her twin sister.
And I promise you that same soul would do this to any other child. It would not end with this child.
Right now, every attempt possible is being made to determine who made the call. Now, the cell phone goes back, apparently, to a 12-year-old little boy. He says a man approached him in the park where he, the little boy, was shooting basketball and asked to use the phone, and that he made the call to Jholie. Is this true? If so, how can we ever find him? Mark Class, another thing, if Jholie's cell phone was used to hide what had happened, to obscure the facts, it can at least be pinged at the time she texted, well, her cell phone texted her twin sister, and then later that night called the mom, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Cell phone technology and cell phone forensic science has come a long, long way over the course of the years, and I believe that the authorities, the FBI, with their vast resources, should be able to get to the bottom of exactly what happened with that cell phone and perhaps even who used the cell phone.
Now the question arises, is the man who borrowed the 12-year-old's cell phone actually a boyfriend, a former boyfriend, really a stalker of Jholie's? What do you know, Lee, in a nutshell?
Okay, they're holding this 17-year-old boy. They're not releasing his name because, he's too young. But they're holding him for an assault charge, a previously unreported assault charge against Jholie. And they're saying he is a person of interest in her murder, but he hasn't been named a suspect as of yet.
Take a listen.
He is being charged with, at this juncture, with a petition charging him with felony assault. Let me clarify that and reiterate that. The question is, so he is not charged with her death at this juncture. That is correct. He is not charged with her death. It was a prior incident that was discovered during the course of this investigation that had been reported.
So as of now, no arrest in the case. Take a listen to Jholie's mother now.
Yes, I have met him. He has come to my house. I have met him.
Mark Class, what do you make of it?
Well, I make of it that there's a twisted and evil individual out there who has absolutely no qualms against murdering a little girl that was 5'2" tall and weighed 104 pounds. He beat her, he left her, he lured her out of her home, and then he murdered her. I don't know that it gets much more dangerous than that, Nancy.
And then to obscure the facts by texting the sister. And the twin sister says she gets this text that Jholie was going to Norfolk for a party, quote, and I'm like, isn't that more than 3 hours away? I mean, she knew this wasn't right for her sister. Take a listen.
Knowing that she's at rest, okay, but I guess being selfish and wanting her here, it's a bittersweet.
It definitely makes me wonder if there's a serial killer or something, or I don't know. But that's really close to home.
A gorgeous young woman disappears in a small town. At first, no one thinks anything of it, but when you look at it in perspective, it's very alarming. This young woman disappears in a town where bodies have been turning up. The deepening mystery surrounding 5 dead women. 3 recently. 5 dead women. 3 recently in the very small town of Lumberton, North Carolina. Right now, Pamela Furr, Crime Stories investigative reporter, joining us from North Carolina. One by one, Pamela, decomposing bodies of women turn up, dumped across the North Carolina town. 5 women in all, and then a desperate search for a 20-year